the Know Your Gear podcast. The Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible.
All right, how's everybody doing? Welcome to the Know Your Gear podcast, episode 414. So I hope everybody had a fantastic week and is ready to talk guitar stuff. Start the weekend off talking about our favorite thing. And as always, we'll give a shout out to the moderators. They have blue names with the blue wrench. They help me facilitate the show every Friday, so I want to thank them for that. And then also I want to thank the channel members and, of course, the patrons who make this show possible. It's important to always sip water. Okay, so we got a lot of stuff to get into. I think I'll just start jumping into the questions, if you don't mind. I grabbed some early riser questions as I do, and the first one I saw was from Fausto, and it says, "Hey Phil, what do you think of JHS NotADumble mistake video?" So I didn't know much about it. I saw some of the patrons talking about it. So I listened to it. So if I get the situation correctly, the NotADumble pedal was made by mistake. In other words, there was two Dumble pedals they were referring off of. They ended up with the wrong one, so they had A and B pedals to deal with. Both are good. This is what I got from it. Two pedals, both are good. They thought they cloned the one. They actually cloned the other one. So now what they're going to do is blow out the rest of the original ones and then make a version of the new one. Stuff like that happens. I don't know. I don't know if it's a good marketing. Did they do it on purpose, or is it, a mistake and they're just owning up to it? I don't know. I don't really have an opinion about it, in any real form. I think about it and I'm like, I think, what I've understand about pedals and my time on YouTube here, more so than anything else, is that pedals are all about more pedals. There's always another pedal, and there always will be another pedal every week. And I think JHS is becoming the master of the new pedal, always having a new pedal, always affordable, always kind of, I told the patrons this, I'll tell you this too. I can't tell you who. You'll try a guess. You'll be wrong no matter who you pick. I promise. Somebody who I know in this industry who makes pedals to some significant degree said that basically, this is years ago, that the key to success with pedals is always have a pedal out every 4 months, make sure it's affordable, and make sure there's a reason to buy it. And 90% of the sale is based on the name. Now, that was in passing, and it was a very cavalier kind of comment. And I'll even give you the context in what it was. They were talking about some of these goofier pedals out at the time, the pedals that make sound effects and stuff. And they were saying, and I said, who buys that? And they said, that's the secret, right? The secret is pedals are more of a marketing game than a legitimate product anymore. And so, I'm not throwing shade on that. That's how YouTube has turned into. That's how guitar companies have turned into. That's how social media has really changed the landscape. And the main reason is this. It's not only times are changing and things are happening, but you got to understand, there used to be a thought out long process because of necessity, right? You want to release a new product, you have to develop the new product, and now what you have to do is think about the marketing costs. And I've said this before, marketing costs is one of the biggest costs to products, which is why I think JHS has been so successful. He's essentially created his own marketing, so therefore his marketing costs have been, to get the audience base that JHS can get on a pedal immediately without having to pay 50 YouTubers to do that. And I'm sure they're still, my understanding is they're still supporting YouTubers and doing it through YouTube too, but you understand they don't need it like they did before. Where a lot of pedals companies, they got to pay out these channels. And I've said before, in my opinion on YouTube, for whatever it's worth, I've been on here almost a decade, the most of the money on YouTube is made through pedals. Like if I was going to focus on, company sponsored content, I would absolutely focus on pedal companies, because a YouTuber can sell a lot of impulse buy product. A lot of $200 things can be sold. So, if somebody pays you a couple $1,000 or $1,000, or even just gives you a free pedal, whatever their deal is, when they give it to you, they can recoup that back very easily. It's very hard to recoup back, when you pay a channel a significant amount of money on something that's not an impulse buy, and hope that in 6 months, they sell enough product for you to make the sponsorship work. But back to JHS and being smart enough to create his own marketing. Not that it doesn't have cost. It's just obviously he has more control of the cost, and he has more control of the messaging, which is important because you never know when YouTubers go rogue and do silly things. But that last part is that it used to be this whole idea of, let's develop the product and then we'll launch ads in Guitar World. We'll have this signature artist do a thing. We'll make a video and we'll put it out, but right on our website, and we'll make store displays for our dealers. It was just this long process, and you roll it out over months to get everybody to notice it. Now you can launch a product in 24 hours. I'm not saying they do, just saying you can launch a product so fast. You could just mention the product. As you guys know, this ties into me, picking on me. I started Blackstock pickups. I've talked about the reason why they were started, what led to that, and what ends up happening is we sold so many, it just became all I was doing. And I had to, again, make a choice. Do I want to be a pickup winder and have Shauna and me making pickups and my son making pickups all week for you guys and make YouTube second chair? There was no way to do both for me to do it the way I wanted to do it. And the only thing that's important about that is that, because again, like Josh Scott, I have this platform. So I mention a product and we sell 1,000, and it sounds so great. Like so many pickup manufacturers. I have friends that make pickups. I can name 5 right now that I think are great. Probably better than me. Sold maybe half as many as me in the last 5 years as I did in just 1 year or 2 years. Because again, the hardest thing they have to cover is getting the message out there, and I can just do it on a Friday afternoon. So I think that's what he was basically saying when he made the comment, my friend, about the fact that pedals have become more of a marketing thing. And I think Josh Scott has done it, in my opinion, with the most integrity you can do that. I don't think he puts out something. Look, there's some pedals. I think they're funny. I think the funny names are funny, and I like the idea behind the concept of doing it. But I think JHS has come across it with a value principle to it. Like, hey, let's give somebody a legitimate product instead of lining the used guitar stores with just unsellable used pedals and a reverb, and boat anchor sitting on reverb. These are legitimate pedals, and he's really marketed both ways so that because I think he understands the second part of this. Although my friend is right, you could just sell junk pedals to everyone, and they'll just do it because we're all impulse buyers and we're all guitar freaks, and why we're hanging out on a Friday afternoon talking about this stuff. But I think eventually what catches up to you is those used bins. That's what gets you. That's what kills it for some companies. They can make a lot of junk pedals, but only for so long. Once you realize that there's, 20 different dead pedals out there that no one wants, and that's where I think Josh Scott has been really good at getting the value proposition, but more importantly, keeping the resale proposition going. So very interesting. Searching for Tone says, so you're saying is to pay you for promotion. Actually, I don't want to go into the YouTube side of it too much, but the problem with channels like me, and I would say just because they're friends and dear friends, I don't mind saying like Tim Pierce. I think the Pedal Show, it falls in this line too. There's a bunch of channels that I'm friends with that I know. I mean, I know a lot of channels, and they all have different business models, and some are really more of a demo channel. Some of them don't make no qualms about that. They literally demo product for companies, and so essentially that company pays them and they make a video. The company pays them, make the video. There's a lot of channels that are like me where it's a mix. It's like I'm making my own content that's non-sponsored and it goes more viral. It does better for me. It brings in a bigger audience. YouTube pays me a lot more with those dividends. I can make a living on my YouTube side of my channel instead of the sponsor side. I have no, I tell you guys all the time, About 5% of all my revenue every year is sponsored content because it just makes sense to pull in some sponsors sometimes, especially if it's something I'm trying to get my hands on, or if it's something like, hey, the payout's going to be significant so that I can buy products like, buy that Peavey T15 that I bought to make that video. I only say this not to talk about me, but so you guys can really champion channels that are more independent, so you understand what they're going through. My channel, very successful. I did a video of this T15 this week. I hope you guys watched it. It's at 50,000 views. I'm very proud of that. 50,000 views is a lot of views on a product that hasn't been out for 30 years and has no interest to the community. But I thought it was an interesting subject and an interesting video. That guitar and that amp with tax is about almost $500. So if you figure $350 for the guitar plus tax, $340 for the guitar plus tax, $100 for the amp plus the tax. That video is currently made and probably will cap out at about $306. So now I'm fine. I have patrons, right? Maybe somebody clicks an affiliate link, but you understand that even a smaller channel would demand almost double what I made on that video just to promote for a company. So that's what I'm saying. Independent content is hard to do. And that's why I just want you to be aware of. So what I'm saying is it's harder for everybody. It's harder for small channels to make money, and it's harder for small builders to, not only because they got to pay these YouTubers, including myself, but then you have a lot of the choice channels that I like that won't even do it for money. You have to bring them something interesting. I will say it over all the time. Keep in mind, I'm not only talking to you, I'm talking to every potential sponsor of my channel. You have to trade me something of value. You either have a product that my audience wants to see. That's a trade. I will borrow it. I will do the video for free. Why? Because you will watch it and it will be a good video. That's great. Or you have to pay me to do the video because the audience won't engage with it as much, and I lose audience. But hopefully from that interaction, I use the funding to make the non-sponsored videos. So if you look at this year, I'm about 50-50 so far. 50% of my videos have been, actually that's not true. 60% of my videos have been unsponsored and 40% have been kind of sponsored. So you get the idea. Okay, so that's how you sprinkle it. And everybody has to figure out their own way. I only share it because it's a Friday show and it's my show and might as well share it. And I have no reason. Hawkhead418 says, what Peavey amp is that? That is the Backstage Plus. I have two of them now. Funny story for those paying attention. I thought it was interesting. So I bought that amp specifically because I've been looking for an amp that I love, that I want to use for the inexpensive guitar videos. As you guys know, whenever I make a guitar video that's like sub $400 or sub $300, you guys don't like it when I play through like a crazy expensive Dumble clone or a Magnetone or some crazy amp, the Synergy, which is like $1,500. I understand that. It makes total sense. It's like, why are you showing me a guitar with an amp that costs, 10 times more? So I've been using like the Katana and the Catalyst. And part of the problem is this. I like pedals. I use pedals through those amps. And I like those amps a lot. But I liked the Katana Clean Tone more than the Catalyst, I think. Pretty much. And I like the Catalyst overdrives more than the Katana. So I was just constantly toggling between those two. And I made it a special endeavor to find a new amp. So I looked at what was out there, knowing that I could reach out to a lot of those manufacturers and say, hey, if you want to send me that amp, I'll use it in videos when demoing these guitars, and you can sponsor it. The problem is when I tried all the amps on the market right now, and Blackstar was probably my favorite, some of my favorite amps. I was almost there, but then I started trying old Crates, old Peaveys, old Marshalls, and I came across this Backstage Plus, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. It was scratchy pots. It was horrible. It looked like a train wreck. I cleaned it up and made it better. And then I bought a second one. I mentioned it last Friday. I bought a Guitar Center for $109. I bought that one from Guitar Center used. This one had a broken Peavey logo. So when I bought the new one, I thought the other one's more ragged. I'm cleaning up right now. I'm going to use that as a backup. And I thought, I'll put the broken Peavey logo on that one and the fixed logo on this one. But then when I was taking it apart, I noticed, if you can see here, it's going to be very hard. It's not broken. You cannot tell, but trust me, this is not broken. Maybe from the side view. Hold on a second. Side camera's probably a little clearer because, yeah, it's going to be clear. Look at this. This made me laugh. It looks broken. It is not. It's really hard to see the details, but somebody cut that off. See the knife mark? See that? Somebody sawed it off. Somebody sawed off the A on this Peavey logo. In other words, somebody thought they modified it. I was like, you ruined it. But maybe they thought this looks better than that. I don't know. I wanted 2 of them. I figured for $100, it was worth investment. I like the amp. So to answer your question, that's what the amp is. If you want to see the amp in action, it's on the new Peavey T15 video. I used it in the video because, of course, that's the appropriate matchup. But it also will be in, I think, Monday's video. As well, because that's another more inexpensive guitar, and I'm going to be using that Peavey for that. I really like it. Sounds good. And my logic being that when I'm playing a $200 or $300 guitar, I'm playing through a $100 Peavey amp. I say $100, so you know, these things people try to charge $300 for these. If you look around, you find them for $100, $150. They're not great. Don't think this is me going, man, this is the find you guys just don't know about. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this amp, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I like the way it looks. I like the way it was working. It's a 110-inch speaker, 35-watt amp with 2 channels and a foot switch. Has built-in spring reverb. It solved a problem for me. The problem being, I don't know how many of you, there's probably somebody still going to do it, are going to accuse me of rigging the game with that amp. In other words, like, yeah, that guitar sounds good, but it's because of that amp. I'm like, well, it's probably not going to be because of this amp now. So if it sounds good, it's not because it's going through an expensive amp. Flash says I snagged a Peavey T15 for $300. I had to have one. Yeah, you know, if you don't mind not getting, I couldn't find a really good deal on one with the case and the amp. I really wanted to have the case and the amp in the video, but you know, my brain kept going. You know, I'm like, wow, it was like $500 the cheapest one I could find with the case and the little amp. And I kept thinking if the video did 100,000 views, it makes about $500-$600. So I was like, oh, that's the break even point for that amount. I was like, that's not going to work. And so I was like, let's keep it. I found that one for $340 and I was like, okay, $340, that's more doable because like I said, I figured if the video did, you know, 100,000 views, you know, I'd make a couple $100, you know, and so we'll see. Willie wants to know, why is there a mic on that amp head? Because I think it's funny. So that's 100% why. That's it. You see the mic's not plugged in. So what happened is I use a Sennheiser E609 for a lot of videos. I like that microphone a lot. And I'm doing a video for an amp, and the amp is in true stereo. And I was playing the amp and I was doing the video, and I thought to myself, they'll probably ridicule me on the internet for not recording it in stereo since it is in stereo. And I was like, okay. So I ordered another E609. I have no use for that other mic other than making this one video. So I bought this mic. They're not expensive. They're $100 new. And then I had to buy another little mic stand. So I bought another mic stand. And then I go, what am I going to do with this thing? So I just thought it was funny to stick it there because I think it's funny. So that's why I did that. So that's why there's a mic on the head. So it's funny. Okay. Sound Music says, hey, Phil, could you do a video on or an episode on strings? I could do that. I've done a bunch. You'd have to go through the catalog. I've done flat wounds. I've done tape wounds. I've done pure nickels. I've done coated strings. So I've done them all. I've just not done a run through of all of them. Maybe I'll do a run through of all of them. Okay. Amanda sent a question from Blake. He says, hey, Phil, lately I've been looking into getting an SG or similar style guitar. I think you should do it. SG is one of my favorite guitars. Do you feel the neck joint on the 61 versus the standard is a legitimate concern or an overstated issue? I don't even know what's different. There's nothing. What is it different with the neck joint? Oh, where it sits and how the little, like I'm looking at mine. I don't notice. You know what it is with SGs? Here's what I'll tell you, the good and the bad of the Gibson SG. When they're right, they're amazing, and when they're not, they're not. And I just find there's no, Kev's like the 61 has the long tenon. I don't notice or care. I don't play, I'm not, my hands down. I just see you guys play. There's no money above the 5th fret. Just kidding. So anyways, the point I'm making is with SGs, it's funny to me. I'd like to say there's a type of SG I like. It's not true. The one that's behind me right now, this one with the dual P90s, this one has the 50s carve, a little bit chunkier neck. I love it. It sounds fantastic. It plays fantastic. I love it. And weight-wise, it's about a half pound heavier than my other SG, which has the thinner 60s neck. And like I said, it's just, you try them. I would definitely, when it comes to Gibsons, if you're talking about Gibsons, try to go and try one and play one. I find almost no two Gibson necks are alike. And I've really learned that horrible experience when you try to find two Gibsons you want to, you like, if I want to love and I try to find a backup or a duplicate, it's almost impossible. The necks are just too all over the place. The shape's always a little off. The thickness is always off. Something's always off. Epiphone's more consistent. So I think you can feel pretty good with that. Sean Brooks says, hey, Phil, did you see the new SEs and the S2 studios from PRS? Thoughts? I saw what a lot of you saw. I saw some pictures on Instagram of them. It looks like they're really going to push the narrow field. This is the 25th anniversary of the SEs, so you guys know. So it was 25 years ago. It was 2000 when the SEs came out, if you guys remember the very first SE. They have not, I think, done an official anniversary thing yet that I saw. But it is their 25th year. So I can't imagine they're not going to do it, since last year was the 40th year of PRS and they did or was this year? This year was the 40th anniversary party of PRS guitars. So 1985 to 2025. But this year is also the 20th anniversary. Did I say 20? 25th anniversary of PRS SE. So I would imagine they're going to do some really cool stuff. I'm hoping that they're going to make the Teles, the Teles they did the core that I reviewed that I thought was, I thought it was way too much money for what it was, comparatively speaking, to other PRS guitars. I'd really like to see an SE of that. I think that'd be a cool guitar. I think that would be one of the SEs that I would be like, yeah, I'm interested in buying this, and having it to play. Because I thought they played and sounded great. I just, wasn't a huge fan of the price points for comparative to other, like I said in that video, I compared it to my CE24 with a, beautiful quilted top and a semi-hollow. Was less money than the Teles version. To me, that just doesn't make sense. Like, but I don't know much about the new SEs. So as you guys, they have narrow field pickups. Okay. Sorry, I'm just reading some of you. Hey, RNA Music's in the house. Hey, RNA Music, how are you guys doing? It's always nice when I see a familiar name. Okay. Amanda also sent this one from Lunamatic. Says, hey, Phil, thinking about putting hot rails in my American Pro 2 Strat. What are the positive and negatives of single coil size humbuckers versus full size humbuckers? They're not, I did a video actually comparing them. Of course, in that video, it's subjective and all this stuff, but just, you're asking my opinion. So I'm just giving you that's a good resource, because that's kind of where I come up with the opinions I have for this podcast, is through the experimentation I do in those videos. In my opinion, they're two different animals, and I really have likened the mini humbuckers to sounding more like P90s, which, keep in mind, the original PF is basically trying to sound like a P90. That's just kind of where it goes. So to me, if you put hot rails or any kind of these mini humbuckers in your guitars, I really think that if you AB them to a humbucker, you always go, oh, it doesn't have the low end. It has more mids in the pronounced mids. It doesn't have the fullness of a humbucker. But if you compare it to a P90, you're almost like, wow, this is all the things I like about a P90, but it doesn't make any noise, and it fits in the spot. So if you like P90s, I think you'll like mini humbuckers. When I find guitar players don't like mini humbuckers, it's because they really like all the things that a humbucker brings to the party, so to speak. And the smaller humbucker, the mini, is just not all of that. It's approximately the same. Sorry. So that's where I would put that information. I like them, in other words, but if I want a full humbucker, I want a full humbucker. I don't actually go, oh, the mini is the same. It's just not. Okay, let me go here. Let me grab. This is the first super chat question. Antique Rocker says, hey, I heard from several sources that Vermont has more certified luthiers. Sorry, I'm laughing. Sorry, certified luthiers. I always think of master luthier, for those that remember that joke from the show. Okay, so anyways, has more certified luthiers than any state. Their guitars show up in local sales sites. What is your opinion on private luthier's guitars? So everyone's bias. It's what, I told you, everybody's got a bias. It's just knowing what the bias is. So I'm going to give you my bias, and then, you take that bias with the information. Over the years on the channel, and this is where the bias comes from. Over the years doing the channel, when you have this ability to make a video and maybe get 10,000 or tens of thousands of guitar players to see something, you realize, like, one day, the day I realized for myself was, I made a video and the company of a pedal. I made a video of a pedal, and that company made $1 million off the pedal. Now, I know what you're thinking, like, how do you know that? Well, because they are one of the few companies that had my physical address, and they scared the hell out of me and my wife because they sent like a professional chef to my house that knocked on my door. And when we opened the door, she was like, "Hi, I'm a professional chef from some catering company, some high-end expensive catering company. And I was commissioned to make you this stuff." And it was a card, and it says, "Thank you so much. You sold $1 million worth of these pedals." And anyways, now the funny part of that story is, because I can always hear Ralph in my head, my friend Ralph, he goes, "Man, you make a company of $1 million and they give you, some food." I'm like, "Yeah," but they said thank you, and they told me up that point, back then, YouTubers didn't know. The channels had no idea who was listening or what we were doing. So I would make a video and people would say like, "Oh, you're a shill." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm a shill." I didn't know. You just didn't know. Okay. Some were in the game, but most of us were just making content, and you're aware that something's happening, but you didn't know what. The reason why that's important, this all goes into the luthier thing. And so what happened was, over time, you start realizing like, wow, I've sold a lot of stuff. In fact, if there was one, like I tell horror stories of the store all the time, there's one horror story of this channel, and it was that a small company, very small, like one person owns the company and makes stuff, made a product, sent me the product. I came with this great idea. I said, "Hey, I don't think you're presenting this product right. I want to make a video presenting this product." And they were like, they didn't see my vision, and but they didn't have any choice because I was probably the only channel that responded to them with any kind of volume of views. And I did the video, and the video went viral, and they made a lot of money. And then they took the money and they spent it all at the NAMM show, and they lost all the money at the NAMM show. And then they came back to me and said, now remember, they didn't pay me to do this video. I guess I got a free product that was worth about $30. And they said, "Hey, we'd like you to do another video." And I was like, are you kidding me? Right? Now, I tell you all this because, so you understand at some point I realize like a lot of channels, you realize you have some kind of value here and you're giving it to people, or you're trading it. Like I said, it's mostly a trade. Hey, everybody goes, "It must be nice to get a free guitar." And I'm like, "I don't know. I haven't got a free guitar." Not from somebody who's not my friend. Usually it's a trade. They just want to trade the value of something. So I always tell people, I go, imagine you went to your work tomorrow, and instead of your paycheck, they're like, "Hey, you like toaster ovens, right? We'll give you 6 of them," right? That's like trading. So my point to the story is, with this, I don't want to say power, with this reach, that's the best way to put it. With this reach, I have reached out, I've talked to so many small luthiers, thinking, why not help them? Fender doesn't need my help. Gibson doesn't need my help. PRS doesn't need my help. They don't need my help. They sell lots of guitars. I don't need to subsidize billion-dollar companies by doing free content for them, right? Doing a video of another Squire so they can, make, 8 figures. And I literally, so I reach out. I have been doing this now for easy 8 years. In 8 years, I could honestly tell you 90% of the luthiers I've worked with have been the most horrible experiences of my entire life, if not just on YouTube. If I didn't get screwed by one, or they didn't do half of what they promised, every horrible situation has come out. This is my bias. Again, I'm just telling you the bias. I'm not trying to tell you not to buy from luthiers. I'm telling you this is just why you don't see as much of them on the channel. I try all the time. The problem is, it comes in some kind of back and forth problem. It either is they don't do what they promised, which is weird, or they don't understand, like, I'm going to report the experience I have. And sometimes I get to the point where I make the video and I go, if I report this experience, this is a horrible experience I've just had. And I go, this is not what they want me to say, right? This is crazy. Or more importantly, what's happened on the back end is I have got the product. Everything did, it did get here. It was fine. And then what happens is I do the video, and then 50% of the time, and I feel like I'm rounding down for sure, 50% of the time, you guys start emailing me. Hey, I watched your video. I bought that guitar from that company, and it's been 6 months and they won't respond to me. And now I have to get on the phone and like, hey, respond to my viewers. Otherwise, I'm going to have to slam you publicly on the podcast. I don't say that specifically, but you understand that's probably what's been conveyed. Like, hey, why do I have to be involved in this? And so because of that, now, when we work with luthiers, smaller companies, we vet them. And I can tell you right now, most of the time, they go right away as soon as we try to vet them. I put a lot of time and effort. If you see like a company like Beltone, I want you to understand something. When I highlight a small company like Beltone, who's Steve, the owner, is in Florida, makes great guitars, I have literally spent, I can't say hundreds of hours, that's ridiculous, but weeks of, whole work weeks devoted to just vetting him, reaching out, who's had a bad experience, who's had a good experience, who is he not sent a guitar to that's paid for it? Can he make any guitars in a timely manner if I send him this effort? And that takes a lot of time and money. So because of that, we've actually started making the smaller companies, pay us for the time to vet everything. And so, most of them either can't afford it, which is fine. When I say fine, I mean, we can work with that, or they just refuse to do it because they just, but you gotta understand, it's a little different. It's so much easier to make a video. This is the sad part. It's so much easier to make a video, not because of Fender pays me. Fender's never paid me, and I don't even work with Fender directly ever. Companies like them, at least when I do a Fender video, I know when I do the video, I'm not going to get an email on Thursday going, hey, I bought a Fender guitar from Sweetwater and they won't return my calls, and I think they took my money. So to answer your question, that's the thing about small businesses, is that there is a lot of really amazing ones. And I would say, just to be kind and not sound cynical, 2 out of every 3 are a problem. So when I find good ones, I recommend them. Absolutely. I absolutely recommend them. And I try to keep pushing on them if I can. If I could do another video for them, I can. And if you ever want, I won't probably name names because here's the problem. This is the punching down, punching up theory. Some of these builders, if I out them and say things about them, I could not collapse their company, but I could cause them irrevocable damage talking about them, over some silly things. So I will tell you one funny story, and it's just the one that always kind of sticks in my head as the funniest. I once had a small... Actually, I'll tell you 2 funny stories because they're 2 small builders. I had a small builder reach out to me. By the way, I'd like to also point out that 99% of the time, the builders reach out to me. It's not the other way around, right? I'm just interested in them because I'm like, oh, a small builder, someone we can highlight, a small builder. I've done videos of small builders like Fox 3 Guitars, and I was like, this is really fun. Let's do a video. And as soon as I did the video, everybody put, they're out of business. I'm like, what? They're not making guitars. I don't know if that's true. That's what you can read the comments. That's what it says in the videos. And we sent them an email and never got a response. So I don't know if they're still around or not. So Fox 3 Guitars, you're still around. Let me know. I had a builder reach out and they go, hey, we want to build you a guitar. We want you to do a video. And I said, okay, cool. Let's do the thing. And, obviously the trade will be, they'll build, I'll keep the guitar. Okay. And, that sounds good. It is good, but keep in mind, I have a lot of guitars. I'm not really interested in a guitar at this point. I really want to make videos. I like doing what I do. So I go, but we'll make it work because that's the best way to work with you. And I screwed up. I mentioned that they were building me a guitar on this channel, and apparently you guys flooded them with orders. And then they basically told me, not up front, but I found out months later that they got so many orders. They're like, well, we put yours on the back burner to make everybody's guitars. I was like, oh, cool. Well, hey, that's good for them, right? So a year or 2 went by and somebody actually asked me hey, you never did a video of the guitar. I'm like, well, they never sent the guitar. And then somebody I know from the channel, a patron, sent me a message saying, hey, I was at their facility and they showed me your guitar. And I go, oh, okay. I kind of had given up on that. It's been 2 years. I didn't know they were going to still build me a guitar. And so I ordered a guitar from them. I'm like, cool. And then I found out later the guitar they showed them, that wasn't my guitar. They were just, when they asked, they go, aren't you making film a guitar? And they go, yeah, we are, buy a guitar. But that's not the funny story. The funny story that happened to me, well, that was funny, but this one's the funniest. A builder reached out to me and asked me to build a guitar. I came up with this crazy concept of guitar. I spent all this time figuring out, like, this will be great. I sent it to them and they said, this seems strange. And I said, yeah, but it's going to make a great video. It'll get people excited about your brand because, at the end of the day, I make content. I make interesting content for people, and it's, that's how I pay my bills. It's not, I don't get commissions from your guitar sales. I want you to look great, but I really need the video, and I want to make the video fun. And so I came with this crazy idea because it would have a crazy look and a crazy title, and it'll be fun and get your name out. And of course, the quality is what people matters, and they understand that they can custom order something different. And so I have them build the guitar, and forever goes by, and ever, like at least a year, at least, maybe longer. And I haven't heard from him. And then one day I'm watching YouTube and there's another YouTube channel slightly bigger than mine. I'd say, well, slightly bigger, a couple 100,000 bigger. They have my guitar. And I'm like, hey, that's my... So my first thought, you can imagine, is, did that freaking YouTuber copy my idea for that guitar? That's a weird... How would they know? I figured out what happened. When I say I figured out, I mean I found out what happened. They talked to a bigger YouTuber than me and they sent him my guitar. And then the irony of this is, apparently that YouTuber didn't sell very many guitars, so then they reached out to me afterwards and said, hey, we want to make you a guitar, and here's what they did. Obviously it didn't make sense to make me that guitar, and I also did something that was probably at the time dumb. I didn't tell them that I saw that they had sent my guitar to somebody else. I didn't say anything. I just said, yeah, if you want to send the guitar, we'll do the video. They sent me a guitar, and the guitar they sent me was so butt ugly. It was so weird. It was just this rando thing that they made. So, another fun story. A company reached out, because a lot of them, they always reach out the same thing. And they go, hey, we want to make you a guitar, and then you can tell your audience about it. In other words, sell our guitars for you. And I said, cool. And they sent me a guitar, and they said, they had a weird story. The story started weird, which is like, we're going to send you a shop. A lot of them want to send the guitar that's in the shop. We'll send the guitar. It's going to be a little ragged, a little beat up. Okay. And I said, don't worry about it. They sent the guitar, and I get it. And everything about this guitar is pinging me the wrong way. All the hardware is really inexpensive Chinese hardware that you can, that you see on the $200 guitars or $100 guitars. The truss rod, everything is wrong. Like, look, you get a sense of where everybody builds guitars. It's not that everything's metric and some stuff are standard. It's just, you just kind of know what stuff. And the finish they were using, and there was a bunch of things they were using. And I was like, I've never seen any actually U.S. small luthier shops build guitars like this. So I reached out to them really kindly and said, hey, is this guitar made overseas? And they said, no, we make them here. And I go, there's some weird choices that you made, especially in this some of the measurements, some of the spacing. And I said, so so this one, you definitely made this one, right? And then as the story unfolds, it started unfolding as, well, the plan is, once I do the video, they're going to order a bunch of those from Asia. And I'm like, what? Wait, what's going on here? And then it slowly comes out that they don't really build guitars. They had these prototypes made in Asia, right? And once I do my video, everybody wants this. They're going to order a bunch. And I'm like, now I want to point out to you that they wanted this guitar to sell for $2,400. What I thought I was looking at, by the way, it was really cool design. I'd say one of the coolest unique designs. I think they designed it. I'm not sure. But anyways, my point to the funny part is, I would say this guitar should cost about $299 to $399 max. And so that's my answer to your question. That's what you deal with. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to still deal with this stuff, but I'm also going to keep vetting them and deal with all the things. Because again, once you make those mistakes, I don't want to make them again. I've made a lot of them. When it comes to pedal companies, we talked about this, amp companies, I take my time. I make sure that I don't just do the romance video, which is, I get it. I say, hey, they sent it to me. It's a lot hard. It's a lot easier to do when you're a newer channel. You get the romance. Somebody sent you something and you feel pretty inspired because you're like, wow, somebody really respects what I do, and now I can't wait to tell all my audience about it. And really, what you're doing, you're setting your audience up for disaster, and you just don't know it. So, I gotta stop saying literally all the time. Sorry, guys. I really, really mean this when I say it's. I'll continue to vet stuff, and especially new products and stuff. I'm actually doing that right now. There's a product that I want to release this video right now, but the product I think it's legitimate. I think it is cool, but I just want to keep going and make sure it's right. So, so that's my very long and probably boring answer, Antique Rocker, to tell you that I think you should support local luthiers. I think you should support small businesses, but vet them. Ask to talk to customers. Ask to try to find out stuff. Because of the fact that it's unproven product from an unproven business, and it's not even as simple as you get it and it's not what you like. It could be you don't even get it. You don't even get the product. I would say, I don't know, 20%. I'll just keep it at 20. I'm just, I'm going off feeling here, not actual numbers. I don't have stats and figures for me. But so 2 out of 10 times when I talk to a small business about a product, it never even comes to fruition. They don't even make anything or send anything. And that's even when I kind of gave away everything, saying, hey, I'll just do it on a loaner, I'll do that, like I said, if I think there's a video there for you guys. I think there's something interesting. Because keep in mind, I make the money if you guys watch the video. And when I say watch, it's not how many clicks I get, it's how long you stay engaged. I need you guys to stay until the end of the video to make any money. So if I can make a good video that is interesting and you guys can learn from, I make money. It doesn't matter if they sell 10 or 100 guitars. I want them to do well. That's part of the co-sponsorship, but it's not paramount for me. It's not the thing I care about the most. So, which is, I don't know. Think of it what you want. It's just the truth. Vimps69, what's up, Vimps? He says, Phil, thanks for the Fret Sprout Clinic yesterday. If we want to use the Dremel tool for fretwork, which wheels do you use? Okay, so yesterday's, I do a weekly clinic for the patrons now, $10 and above. This is not so much to create a lesson program behind a paywall. I'm just trying to come up with reasons why to justify the fact that you guys have been supporting the podcast. So it's like $5, you get a bonus podcast and you get ad-free versions. $10, you get that. Plus you get to see these weekly clinics that I'm doing. They're live, but obviously if I miss a week, I have pre-recorded ones I'll play to you guys. But it's just really cool, way to say thank you. And then the $25 ones, we do the coffee hang. So twice a month. So that's what he's talking about. The end plan, so is that stuff will eventually work itself to you guys either through this channel or the secondary channel, as I find what's interesting and and so like I said, I appreciate you supporting, but you don't have to rush to support. Is what I'm trying to say. You'll get It's kind of like when I tell you I'll wait for a deal on a guitar. If you wait, you'll get the content that I'm charging people for in time. It's just these people are just supporting the channel, so I'm trying to give them a value. That's all. So back to Vimps. So he's talking about, so yesterday was this Fret Sprout, which was the worst Fret Sprout I think I've done in a couple years video. But specifically, he's asking about the wheels. So I have a video on the podcast talking about fret polishing, and this is the Dremel wheel I use. And there's 2 kinds. I'm going to share it with you right now. Okay. So these are the 2 kinds, Vimps. The one I'm using in that video is the green, which is the extra fine. You can use the fine ones. I suggest you buying the complete set. The 2 kinds. $37. I know it's a lot of money. I know it is. You don't have to buy this from them. This piece here should come with your Dremel. So this mandrel thing. You shouldn't need to buy it from them. If you have a Dremel, it should have came with it or in one of those kits. But these 2 wheels, this set, $37, this will last you forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So is it me or is this math whacked? Hold on a second. Don't buy this set. How is this? Am I missing something? Because $15.51 times 2 is not $37. So Vimps, do not buy this complete set. Right? It doesn't say complete set. I assume it's $5. Buy these individually for $30. This is $30, right? This is $31 and $31.02. So $6 cheaper. This is that crap they do at the grocery store. Doesn't that piss you off? Like, I'm so dumb at the grocery store. I'll do it. I'll be like, case, it's 12 pack of Coke, $3.99, 2 for $12. I'm like, wait, and I'm like, oh, come on, man. Come on, Stu Mac. You're better than this. Do not buy the complete set. Buy them individually. But if you're only going to buy one, buy the greens. I very, very rarely use the red ones, the fine ones. I use the extra fines because I'm usually trying to use them to super polish the frets, which is what I did in that video. And if you can find them for less, that's your resource. I don't know that those are specifically made by Stu Mac. I don't know if that's a specific product to them or if it's something you can get anywhere else. Somebody will probably put it in the comments. I tend to buy from Stu Mac not only because they support the channel periodically, which is nice, but I do it because that's where I bought it all before, and I'm usually, most of the stuff you guys see me use is stuff that I've had way before I started doing YouTube, because stuff lasts forever. That stuff lasts forever. You're not really going through that stuff like crazy. So, okay, Dr. Frankenstein says the mandrel is included in the set. Okay, now it makes sense. All right, thank you for clearing that up, Dr. Frankenstein, because otherwise I was like, man, Stu Mac's math was whack. I'm so glad we've now vindicated Stu Mac from not. I could just see that email on Monday. Phil, that's not, we didn't do anything wrong. Why are you slamming us publicly? I don't know. Happens. Okay. Let's go to another question. We'll take one from Amanda. Amanda sent this one. Yardbird68. What's up, Yardbird? Says, what is the purpose of reverse wound, reverse pull Stratocaster pickups or other types besides being able to play your music backwards? I like your joke. That's a good dad joke. I'll go with it. But of course, we know the real purpose is for reverse wound, reverse pull is to when we combined it with another pickup to go noiseless. So that's it. Aaron Daniels says, Phil, I have started doing repair work and I have lots of parts. How do you organize to use with others? So parts, I just have lots and lots of trays and bins and I keep them all together. And that's it. So I keep all my output jacks in one drawer and I keep all my, like 250K. The thing that I would say you definitely just organize, the only thing you really want to organize and keep track of is your 250K and 500K potentiometers. You want them to be in different drawers because it's just a mistake waiting to happen. It's weird how your brain works. The video I did yesterday, which we'll segue. We'll do this. We'll do Guitar of the Week right after this. Finish this thing. Segue into the video I did yesterday, which was from Fender. It's a dual humbucker Fender guitar. And when I was doing the sheet, even though I just was, my brain was like, Fender is 250K, 250K, 250K. And I kept saying 250K and I kept writing 250K. I was looking at the potentiometers. They said 500K. I know that humbuckers are 500K, but it's Fender, and Fender is just associated my brain to 250K. So that's why I like to keep them, my 250Ks and 500Ks, and my lineared and tapered, all separates and categories. And sometimes use a Sharpie and write on them even to make sure, because otherwise you're, as you get older, you're doing a lot of squinting, looking at the edge, trying to read stuff. And sometimes they don't put it on there. It's in the serial number and you have to kind of look it up. It's a pain in the ass. So that's how you do it. But that brings me to what? It brings me to...
Now it's time for Guitar of the Week.
Guitar of the Week. So if you're watching right now, this is the most exciting Guitar of the Week for you guys. Here's why. We're giving away a guitar. So this is Shauna's thing. She did this. I want to thank her for this. The fine folks at Guitar Center reached out and said, hey, would you do some videos? And I'm like, yeah, of course. That's what we do here. We do videos of guitars. And they said, hey, we have this limited edition. And I gotta tell you the why is funny when I'm giving Shauna credit, not only because she worked it out, but because also she just thinks so much differently than I do, right? Here's why. So they go, hey, here's what we're doing. We're doing a limited edition Fender guitar series, okay? So it's a FSR, Fender Special Run, okay? So these are, how many they're gonna make? Who knows? Probably, my guess, because they have 300 stores, probably something like, 300 units. Maybe they might make 10 per store, 3,000 units. Who knows? But it's a limited run, and they doing a Tele and a Strat. They're hardtails, and they are, let's show you the guitar and talk about it. They are. I did the video, but I'm going to do the guitar of the week too because I want you to maybe win this. All right. Okay, and I'll explain how everything works. So this is a sandblasted ash body. Okay, in vintage natural or antique natural. So it looks actually butterscotch when you see it in real life. So it's sandblasted, but it's also fully chambered. It's hollow almost, right? So the guitar is like in the 6 pound range. It comes with a hardtail bridge, and it comes with, originally it's gonna come with a 3-way switch, a volume and tone, but if you watch my video, you'll see I did this. The one you win doesn't have that. 2 Seymour Duncan pickups. You got a JB and a 59, some of my favorite sets of pickups by far. And then you get a roasted maple neck. Look at that. And locking keys, and then a hardshell case. This is made in the USA, and this sells for $2,000. And if you click the link and enter your email address, I will be picking the winner on June the 6th and announcing it right here on this show. Hopefully one of you will be live when I announce it because I'll just make the whole thing more exciting, wouldn't it? And so Guitar Center agreed to give one away. So, and why I said I love that Shauna did this is because usually companies don't want to give away something that is finite or hard to get because, you know, it's a limited edition. It's not like they need tons of promotion on this. Part of the promotion is the fact that it's going to sell, just the fact that it's limited. So let's share. Let me back up a little bit. Go to the side camera maybe. And I got 2 things to share. I got some really cool things here. Okay. All right. Let's do this. We have the guitar. Turn this on. Okay. And what am I running? Let's go back. Let me just show you. So I'm running the Amplified Nation amp today. I figured with the $2,000 guitar, let's run through my favorite amp. So Amplified Nation amp, mic'd up on the cab. We got 2 creamback selections. That's cream with a C. And of course, the head is mic'd up. Just kidding. Okay. And I'm using a boost pedal. So I'll show you the boost pedal, which is right now I'm using the Taurus Servo boost pedal, and I'm using that too. And then this is where it gets cool. Hopefully no more mistakes. So if I get through this without any mistakes, I'm going to share something even cooler. Well, for me, something cool for me, but not for you. What's cool for you is you can win a $2,000 Fender USA guitar. Okay, let's play it, and I'll let you hear how it sounds. Okay. So, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so check this out. We're on the bridge. Let's go to the neck pickup. It does that cool thing that I love guitars do. I call it the Halloween sound. You know those little ghosts at Halloween that make the sound that do that? Okay, so let's take the boost off. So this is the amp's overdrive without the boost. And let's roll the volume back. Okay, so if you notice today that 1, the guitar sounds amazing, Okay. And this might be maybe we'll get a world record. Like we're going to break the internet today. Two things are happening simultaneously. So please click the link down below if you want to try to enter to win this beautiful 6-pound chambered sandblasted ash, gorgeous Fender Telecaster, American Pro 2 with a roasted maple neck. By the way, this is my absolute favorite neck I've ever played of any Fender ever. This actual neck. I like this neck. Within seconds of playing this neck, I knew one thing was going to happen for sure. If I didn't keep this guitar, I was going to take this neck and put this on another guitar. If I didn't like the way this sounded or felt, I was going to go with this. But it just feels so good. And I think it's going to look great when it starts wearing and relicking. But the other thing that's funny, why we're going to break the internet today is, so that is Guitar Center giving that away. So thank them for that. But also, guess who helped us out? Sweetwater. What? It's both? Here's what happened. So Sweetwater was nice enough to help us with a problem I had. As you guys know, as I do these videos, the live show, I'm always like, oh, you're muted, Phil. We can't hear you. Oh, the guitar's muted. Well, you're not here. Sweetwater sent this. Hold on a second. This thing. Actually, you know what? We'll do it from the side. I didn't think about the fact that I got this cable underneath. Okay, so Okay, give me 1 second. So this is it. This is the Radial hotspot. And this, watch what happens if I do this. I go, hello, how are you guys? Wait, you guys can't hear me? Wait, you guys can't hear me? This is a momentary mute switch. So when I was playing, instead of switching over here like I've been doing and messing everything up, I just have a quick Radial pedals, which by the way, these are made in Canada and they're beautifully made. So this is a mute switch for my microphone. So now, like I said, if I just push it, you'll see. I said you don't hear me now. What did I say? So anyways, it's a momentary mute switch. So I want to thank Sweetwater for hooking us up with the mute switch so we can make this video. And then the irony of this is that, the guitar came from Guitar Center. But you know what is nice is, I tell you guys this all the time. I like these companies. The companies I like, I work with, and the companies I don't. And the irony is that's the beauty of the fact that I don't work for these companies. I work with them. And so that's just how it works. So I want to think that so now we'll have error-free video guitar of the week or problem-free guitar of the week. I want to think about that. But again, one more time, shout out for please enter to win this beautiful guitar. Absolutely. Right? Look at that. So what's great is somebody even asked me, they go, what is the one we're going to win? Is it going to be light? They're all chambered. They're all going to be light. So really cool. And Guitar Center is paying to ship it to you. So we don't, as you guys know, sometimes when we do giveaways, they provided the guitar, but we pay a couple $100 for the shipping or whatever the shipping ends up being. They're taking care of that as well. So, and the contest is ran by me. So you you click the link down below and you enter your email address. And I hope, I hope one of you win because you're the ones watching. It would be weird if somebody who didn't watch won it. If you can, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate that. It's just another way to help promote the channel and stuff like that. So I'm very excited about that. Love the guitar. Let's see. Where's the guitar? Where's the link for the gorgeous guitar? Let's see if I can do it right here. And I'll do this. There you go. And I'm pinning it. I just pinned it to the top, I think. Yep, I did. So now that's the link that takes you to enter. And like I said, the only thing it's going to ask you for is an email address. That's it. So Jeff says, I'd want to put a dark stain on all those grooves. Yeah, they had it. They had it in two colors. So they have a Strat. So you can get the Strat version, which is HSS, and then they have them both in the this Age Natural and then black. I just thought the Age Natural looked better, more interesting. And And I was doing it off of a vibe because originally I got to see the promotion pictures, which really weren't very, very helpful. I was like, I just instinctively, I was like, that color looks like it'll do better for a video. And I thought it'd be fun. And I thought it'd be a fun video. And it was great. And I gotta say, what's funny about this, and I say this a lot, and I just need to say, I don't think you guys understand, and maybe you don't need to understand, but I when I have companies that work with me, it's sometimes extra special because, it was nice of Guitar Center to give away a guitar, but it's also nice that in that video, I'm like, hey, they should have put a coil split. And then I put a coil split in it. You got to understand, like, that's not a video I think companies usually want. And I'm not saying they wanted that video. I'm just saying I really appreciate that companies understand that. I think you guys really enjoy content that is more transparent or more honest because the truth is, I like this guitar way better with a coil split. In fact, when I was playing it, the whole time I kept thinking, man, it really needs a coil split because it's right there. You can just do it. So I just like that. And I like say, so that's what I want to say. All right. So please enter to win if you would like to. Let's go to another guitar question. Let's get that out of the way. John says, hey, are all of the hand-wired Chinese tube amps like VHT and Monoprice and major brands made in the same plant? Many look a lot alike. It's possible a lot of them are made in the same plant. You gotta understand China's got a lot of factories, way more than a lot of us can comprehend. I do know for the most part, if you have a guitar amp made in Indonesia, it's most likely being built by Cortec. Cortec's pretty much the biggest, I think, Indonesian amp manufacturer, and it's probably going to be growing the most epically. So you're going to start seeing, I think, more and more amplifiers being made in Indonesia at the Cortec facility. As you guys, some of you know, Cortec also now owns Digitech, and I think it's because it's part of their investment to expand past just being the guitar, a massive guitar builder. China, though, I mean, who knows? But yeah, a lot of them are probably alike because a lot of them are made in the same place. I can tell you, though, that I have now dealt with 2 or 3 companies, 2 for sure, but I kind of feel like there may be another one that I'm not thinking of, that I've worked with that have had their amps made over in China and have now pulled them back because of the fact that they were getting cloned so much. They were getting, knocked off. And it's just the intellectual properties was just too much. It was too brutal for them to deal with. So a lot of that. So, and ironically, when you mentioned like Monoprice, that was one of the amps that is a clone of their amps. And they were like, in fact, when I did that was Laney. When I did a video for Laney, a lot of you were like, oh, you can get a Monoprice for a lot cheaper. I'm like, yeah, it's because the factory knocked them off and started selling them cheaper. So they moved them back. What happens, what are you going to do? Well, I guess move back out of China and go back to England and make them in England. Yeah. But, I would like to do more inexpensive tube amp videos. A lot of you guys are like, you're always doing the expensive ones. I'm like, I am. But I'd like to do more inexpensive ones. Let me know when in the permanent comments of this video what inexpensive amp brands you'd like me to see. I can pick some up and do some videos. So... Okay. I have no idea. What am I? Okay, let's go back to more questions. Sometimes I'm scanning around and I'm just not seeing what you guys are talking about. Let's go to... We're with Dan. Dan says, hey, is the Blue Amp head mic'd? Oh, we already did this as a joke. It is mic'd up as a joke. And I already kind of explained. I kind of stole the thunder. I answered that earlier. But yeah, it's mic'd up as a joke because I have these 2 mics and I thought that was funny. And I just think it's funny. Somebody caught it last week that I did it last week. Then we have Mr. G says, hey, for you, does a Tele with 2 humbuckers scratch your Tele itch? No. No. Maybe when they're coil split, little Tele vibe in there. No, I still have to have a traditional Tele. I prefer Teles with humbuckers. Look, I'm a Tele Strat guy, mostly Strats, but Strat and Tele guy. And all the iterations. So it's like, the GNL iteration, the Kiesel iteration. I just like Strats and Teles. That's what I like. Given to my own devices, that's where I lean towards. I like Les Pauls. I like Jazz Masters. Look, the Gretches. I mean, if you can have a collection of guitars, there are really beautiful instruments. SGs. I really feel, you get to play these guitars. It's very exciting. But like if you force me down to one guitar or two guitars, it's gonna, well, first of all, one guitar, it's gonna be a Strat. It's just gonna be a Strat. And it's gonna be a Strat with two humbuckers. And then if you force me down to, two guitars, it's gonna be like a Strat and a Tele. And on the Tele, I might go two humbuckers, I might go traditional Tele. Just depends. But no, it doesn't really scratch the itch. What Tele's scratch the itch for is, for some reason, when you put two humbuckers in a Telecaster, it is just a really the guitar has a lot of utility to it. In other words, I can get a lot of sounds. You can get, look at the guitar players who use a dual humbucker Tele, like John 5 or Jim Root or Richie Kotzen, because he uses dual humbucker Teles. Who's the country artist we were looking up that uses it? Brad Paisley. I think, wait, is it Brad Paisley? Let me tell you. I may be wrong, because we were looking this up. Keith Urban, Chris Shiflett from the Foo Fighters, Richie Kotzen, John Fives, Jim Root. There's a lot of players out there that use a Telecaster with two humbuckers, and it's very, especially if you can coil split them, it's got a huge amount of utility to the guitar. You can get a lot of stuff done. But no, if you said, hey, if you want a traditional Tele, would that scratch that itch? No, but it depends on how bad you really want a Tele. Some players, I think you got to really love a Tele sound. A lot of players own a Tele and then never play them because they never really truly fall in love with the Tele sound. Okay. T-Size says, hey, Phil, I had 3 Chinese Epiphone casinos that all had problems. Thoughts on Epiphone Casino? Elitist sounds like the best option instead of paying $2,800 to $3,500 for a USA casino. Yeah, you got to understand, when you have problems with import guitars, you got to understand it's a volume thing. I've said this before, and I'll say it over again, and it's just because I think it's just the best advice I could give. It's not hard to make a good guitar. It's hard to make a lot of good guitars. Everybody goes, it's kind of like, it's where I like to kind of push back on people who are like, anybody who in the comment sections who's so cavalier about how like they can do something, right? You're like, I could build that. I'm like, sure, you can do that. You can build it, but can you build 5,000 of them? Like, and see, that's the problem, I used it earlier. I'll use my own pickup building as the explanation of this. I can make a set of pickups, and I feel very strongly that you'll love them. I've had a huge amount of customer satisfaction. I'd say almost 99.99% customer satisfaction. We'll call it that. I feel very, very happy about that. However, could I build 10,000 of those, and make everybody happy? I don't know. It's tough. The more I make, the more problems can slip through. So same thing with anybody else. So it's the same thing with that. It's if you get a Epiphone guitar and you have a problem, it's not an indictment of all Epiphone guitars. It's just high volumes, and when they make high volume guitars and their focus is price point, you gotta understand the focus of an Epiphone, the focus of a Squire, the focus of a Firefly, the focus of a Harley Benton is cost. It is what they think about. It's why sometimes I get jerky when guitars are really expensive on the channel, and I'm like, and they're cost cutting on them. I'm like, wait a minute, this is supposed to be, if you have $5,000, it's not that they should have to kiss your ass. It's that they shouldn't be chasing how cheap can they make this? It doesn't make sense. Right? It's like, I would imagine, I've never had one. I would imagine if I bought a car for 6 figures, I'd be really irritated if I was like, where's the cup holders? Like, those cost money. You'd be like, wait a minute, what do you mean they cost money? This is where I'm spending money. This is where I get my stuff. So when the focus is a price point, you are going to see problems. And you have to be, not so much, I'm not telling you to excuse those problems. I'm just being aware that you could also find tons of examples where they don't have problems. I've said this before. I love it. It's if you gave me 10 American Strats, I would hope that when I take them out of the box, 9 of them are great or good or playable or fine. And if you give me 10 $99 Squires, I would expect hopefully 5 of them to be good or 4 of them to be good, and the rest be okay, and probably 2 of them have an issue or 1 have an issue. That would be my expectation, right? It's just because, again, they're moving a lot faster and they're keeping the price down. So I would say you could try going with the Elite, or you could just search for one that can be a better find a better Epiphone that you were looking at, Casino. So something that you may not know, but both, I believe Guitar Center does this online, and I know Sweetwater does it. Okay, so I think that's why Guitar Center is doing it. So I'll just give them both shout outs. If you call them and you tell them that you're looking for specific guitar, I think Guitar Center wants it to be high-end guitar, but Sweetwater will do it. I was at Sweetwater's campus. I saw them do it. The rep, if you have a sales rep at Sweetwater, you can literally say to them, hey, I want this guitar, but I know there's pictures, but I just don't want a turd. And they put it in their computer, and they'll pull it from the warehouse and bring it right to their cubicle, and they can check and play it and give you a first person kind of play-by-play of what they're experiencing with the guitar, and give you a more focused thing. They're probably going to hate me for saying that. So both these companies, but they'll do that. Now, if they don't do it, don't worry. There's tons of mom and pops that will be glad to do it. So, you just reach out to a mom and pop and say, hey, do you carry this brand? I'd like to buy one. Can you personally inspect it? These are the issues, especially if you've had 3, you know what issues you've had. So you give them the list of issues up front to look for. This is what you don't want to see. I don't want to see these problems. I've had these in the past. So Fire Dog says, 1971 says, he's secretly using the Peavey Backstage. It's funny about the Peavey Backstage, and I caution this because this is actually worse than anything else, right? The only thing worse than, the only thing worse than basically, loving and praising expensive amps is sometimes when you praise inexpensive stuff, because it causes a frenzy of buying. That's why I said I worry about stuff like this. You don't want I'm going to call it the bad monkey effect, right? Where everybody's paying $300 for a bad monkey pedal, even though they were just average. This is a very average amp. I like it. It does the job. It's a very average amp, but mostly, you know what it is? I just love the way I'm looking at it. It's a time and a place, and it's cool. And like I said, it sounds good. It does what I want. It's good. But yeah. Okay. Grumpy Mike Guitar says, are Vega trims still your favorite, or have you found something you like better? Cheers. So I like the Vega trims a lot. They're just expensive. So I tell you guys, it's just like ratio tuning keys. I have them on some of my guitars, a Vega trim on some of my guitars, but I don't necessarily buy them from all my guitars. It's just too expensive. It's not, it's not feasible to put them on everything. My favorite tremolos are probably, I don't know which one I'd put over the other, because they're different. The whole thing about the Vega trim is it's a different feel. To me, it feels more like a Floyd Rose and less like a standard Strat tremolo. So to me, when I want a standard Strat tremolo vibe, I go with like the Godo 510. That's what's usually in all my guitars, because it's relatively inexpensive, it's easy to get, and it feels very familiar, which is, I want to say, more stiff, right? More even no matter how you adjust the springs, it's more stiff like a Strat tremolo. The Floyd is it's smoother. It's not like a Bigsby where, like I said, I think of the Bigsby as like riding in the Cadillac, right? And going up and down the hills, just everything's really nice and smooth. The Floyd is a little bit more like that, but not as much. And the Vega is nice if you want something more like, and I think the hip shot bridge is a little bit more like the Vega, but I think the Vega is more so like a Floyd in the way it feels. But yeah, that's his expense. Otherwise, I put him in more guitars. It's one of those things when, they sent me a bunch of those bridges and we gave most of them away. I think actually we gave them all away but one. So, it's one of those things, like I look back at those times and go, maybe I should have kept all those bridges and shoved them in stuff. Shoved them in my guitars. But I think I don't regret having fun and doing the giveaways. Will says, hey, I'm very interested in limited edition Guitar Center sandblasted Fenders. Have you had a chance to check out the Strat since the Teles video? I have not. So this was, what happened with this video is this is one of the few cases where I was given privy to the product way before the launch. So I didn't physically see what they actually look like, any of the others, until they dropped the day I dropped the video. I only had like a sheet. And it just said base. And in fact, my specification sheets that I made, the reports, I didn't have like a report of their guitar, so I had to like guess what everything was. I was like, oh, that's a JB. This is a 59. It didn't say in their sheet. It was very basic. I knew it was chambered, but I figured that out, and I knew it was sandblasted ash because it said that on the promotional paperwork. I knew it was a roasted maple neck. I did not know the nut was bone. I had to test it and find its bone. So that's how I knew it was bone. Trying to think what else. A couple of things like I just determined. It also comes with, I didn't say it in the video, but it also comes with locking strap locks. So the black strap locks, like the Schaller ones. So it comes with these and the pieces that go on your strap. So I thought that was a nice little touch too. They really did it well. But I would imagine the strats are pretty much the same, but I just don't know. I just don't know. Okay, Analog Harmonics says, can you use a patch bay with the speaker cables for an amp heads into a cap? No. I hate digging behind the amps in the shelves. Look, I'm not an amp guy that way, but I can tell you right now, you don't want to run any anything like speaker cables into anything that's not rated for the power. So like patch bays and stuff like that, no. There's a reason why all those amp switchers are pretty expensive. So especially a tube amp. So again, I want to caution you, I'm not an expert in this area, so I can't speak as one, but I'll give you a rough, because obviously if you're asking a question, you're not familiar, so you can seek out better advice, but I want to give you the basics of the advice. The basics is one of the concerns I know that you have when you run tube amplifiers into these real switchers is not only do you need something that can take the power that's coming through the speaker cables, but more importantly, when the amp isn't being used, it needs to like put a load against the amp, right? So the tube amps need to see a load, just like if they see a speaker. So that's why you can't just willy-nilly use like right, just amps like patch bays and all kinds of stuff like that. So. And Dr. My Balls Itch, look, I said it correctly with a Z and a CH, says humbuckers should have covers. Dot inlays only look good on Fender necks. What are some other purely personal, not right or wrong, harmless opinions? There's tons, right? I don't know. It's funny. I kind of, you nailed two of them. Dot inlay. I think when it comes to the people have preferences, right? They have preferences. But what's happened, the internet kind of galvanizes people's weird opinions in the weirdest way. Like they become less of like I prefer no gravy on my mashed potatoes to anyone who puts gravy on their mashed potatoes is a moron. It's weird how it goes up like that. So like, yes, somebody has an opinion like, hey, I think humbuckers should have covers too. Anyone who doesn't put covers on their humbucker is an idiot, or they don't know tone, right? There's always some kind of weird insult added. And again, very galvanized, like harsh opinion. One of my favorites is, I would say in the hardest opinions, it would be, there's the categories that I can make fun of, and we're all guilty. Okay, well, not all of us for being so intense about it, but we're all guilty for thinking it. Just a lot of people type it. You got to have stainless steel frets, otherwise the guitar is junk. That's a weird one to me. Like I said, I prefer stainless steel frets because they last forever, and I guess not I guess, I just know this. You put stainless steel frets on a guitar and you never have to worry about doing a fret job again is a pretty cool thing. And I even would argue that, I would, even if you said, hey, they're a little brighter sounding, I'd be like, I'll deal with that if it means I don't have to refret a guitar. Especially since refrets now cost 4 times what they did, 10 years ago. I mean, on average, it's crazy how much they keep going up. And for those that have not, you should. I get this a lot. People send me emails going, I just got a quote for refret. Does this sound right? I'm like, it sounds right. They go, this is ridiculous. I'm like, yeah, things are getting ridiculous out there. Roasted maple necks are another hot one. It's like, hey, we never had roasted necks. We don't need them now. And I'm like, okay, then don't get a roasted maple neck. You got to have tubes in an amp. Like how the tubes are mounted in amps is like a big thing for people. Oh, they mounted the tubes to the PC, the PCB board, and it's horrible. I'm like, okay. What's funny to me is I have some friends that build, design and build amps, and I play their amps, and I've never had problems. And they tell me stories about when they have problems with their amps and how they deal with customers or artists that are dealing with their amps, and they tell me how they work on it. And then people go, oh, they do this to be cheap. And I'm like, well, they're trying to balance, right? And to me, it's like a lot of it's like a balance. They're trying to figure out how they can make a thing as most profitable as they can, but give the quality they need to give. It's like I said, you can't go with the concept of, in fact, it's funny, every time I do see an amp, and I'm using amps as an example, where it's made to this perfection, right? This thing like, oh, this is it. Then the comment section is, that's price is ridiculous. And I'm like, well, that's what no compromise looks like. It's not, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying, you have to pick some kind of weird connection. Firedog 1791 says hand wired versus PCB. Exactly. It's funny. I get to ask that a lot, and not as much as before. I have hand wired amps. I have PCB amps, and I literally could care less about which one's which. I hear like, hey, the hand wire ones, they're easier to fix in the long term. Great. I'm sure that's true. I don't care. What I think about all the time is, I just like an amp, and it's just that funny to me. Like, I like that Peavey amp, so I just liked it. I go, okay, I was playing it. I liked it. I played the Amplified Nation amp. I just really liked it. The the Morgan amp, I really liked it. The the Magnetone amp, I really liked it. My Fender Princeton amp, I really like it. Blues Junior, I really like it. There's no thought process in my head that says, like, if I've never been and never would be a person if I was in a room and somebody said, I play a Blues Junior, and I go, a Blues Junior, right? I'd be like, I have a Schmorgan Morgan amp, right? Or whatever, right? Some kind of amp. It's not like that. I just plug into an amp and I go, wow, this sounds really good. And then, so it has nothing to do with money, because I've plugged into so many expensive amps that I just could not stand. I just plugged in and I go, yeah, I don't get this at all. Like, this isn't, I would say and I'm kind of getting off your subject, but I'll round back to it. I would say when it comes to amps, my favorite amp that people hate is like the Blackstar amps, but I really like most Blackstar amps I've ever played. I like most of the amps. I really like it. I have no issues with them at all. And yet people are like, they're junk. And I'm like, I think they're great. I don't know what it is. But anyway, so back to those opinions and guitar stuff. I would say the biggies have to be weight relief. Oh man. I'm trying to go through a catalog of the videos I've done, because that's where you see this stuff. For me, it's where I see it. It's like I make a video and then somebody goes, oh, you had me until you say weight relieved. I'm out. And I'm like, okay. Okay. I understand. It's not for you, right? Or the opposite. Somebody go, I don't play a guitar over 8 pounds or 10 pounds. And it kind of works that way. But I would say the biggest thing, bigger than pickup covers, bigger than the type of pickups, everybody seems to be really focused on fret wire. That seems to be the biggest thing. If it's not stainless steel fret wire, somehow the company's taking advantage of you and stuff. And the reality, I've talked about this, is it's really a pain in the ass to work with for the employees. Time-wise, it's not only the tooling and wearing down your tools and stuff, it's just like it takes more time. But me personally, just my personal opinion, if every guitar company tomorrow said they're just going to stainless steel frets, I'd be like, that's good. I don't care. That sounds good to me. I don't have to worry about frets anymore. I will tell you where I notice it most is like when I play like my Delos, I put so many hours into that guitar every week, and they look brand new. The frets look new. They just no spots. And I just think that's like, it really feels good knowing that I don't have any issues. Okay. I'm laughing. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to pull it up right now. Okay. Let's refresh my screen. Okay. Christian says, hey, how many years pass before you redo any type of your best guitars on the $300 videos? I don't know. I mean, it's been a couple years now, so I guess a couple years pass. But I'll do it. It's a nice suggestion. We have we have a lot of videos that we were working on, and I try to sprinkle the videos throughout. Like here's a deep dive, here's a topic video. So those are great videos for topics. And they just take a lot of research. I do a lot of research when I do those videos. Even though it's my opinion, it's still, you got to base it on something. So I put it together. My biggest problem right now, Christian, so is because we set up the new rooms and the new systems. I've spent a couple months where I'm really not taking any personal time off. Usually a lot of those videos actually happen on my personal time because I'm daydreaming, staring at, a lake or something, doing, relaxing and dreaming up, like, writing down ideas for video concepts versus trying to execute on them. So I'll work on that. Do says, hey, Phil, what do you think of Mad Love pickups? I've never heard of them till just now. Thinking about getting some of their standard size, wide range humbuckers, but $290 for a set is a lot. $290 for a set is a lot. I don't know much about them. I will tell you that in most of my experiences with small pickup builders is their pickups will tend to be better as long as they're executing correctly. In other words, as long as they're doing not screwing it up. Most handmade pickups are going to sound really good. And there's a reason why. It's because some of the things that we don't like about pickups as a whole, besides the small nuances of pickups, right? We're talking about just like the real things, is that when you build things like a pickup and scale, and once you build thousands of them or tens of thousands of them, they can start doing things. It's just like the food industry, right? They can start adding things to the food that wouldn't make sense for a chef at home to do, right? You can't even make something like that at home that bad. So a lot of small pickup builders is just because the way that they get their hands on magnets and on wire and stuff, it's really hard for them to get really low quality stuff. Like it's really easy to buy a cheap pickup made over in like China for $20, but it's really hard to get those materials that are that bad like that in raw materials. It's not impossible. It's just not as likely. So that's my way of saying maybe take a chance. But yeah, $300 a lot. Clan of House Cat says, hey, that Telly is like the Joe. I can't say the name. I don't know his last name. Duplanter? What? Charvel. Let me look it up. Because maybe once I see it, phonetically, it'll make sense once I see who it is, what band he's from. Oh, yeah, it does. I'm going to show the guitar. Look at that. There you go. Yeah, roasted maple neck, locking keys. I mean, this is a satin finish. What pickups are in it? Does it say? That's a mahogany body. Ebony fretboard. Still very cool, though. I don't see the pickups. Oh, it just says Charvel Custom MF humbuckers. Oh, from Gojira. Yeah, maybe I should have known that. So he must be. I only know the one guitar player in Gojira because I did the reviews of his DiMarzio pickups. So this must be the other guitar player. I like the band. I'm familiar with them, but there's a difference between being a fan of the band and being a fan of all the members in the band. And Gojira is one of those bands. Like I like the band a lot. I have their music, but I don't really necessarily like to dissect them. Plus, to be honest with you, at this point, if I know your name in a band, it's probably because you were a band when I was a kid, when I had the kind of time to sit there and learn everybody's names and read all their names. Actually, now you think about it, it's probably, I know everybody's names from Guitar World magazines. Like that's where you learned everybody's names. I did, was from the magazines. You would read about them. But now I just know the bands. And the only time I know any individual guitar players is if they're necessarily just the guitar player, right? Or like Polyphia, I know the guitar players because I interviewed them. So I know Tim and Scott because I interviewed them, and that was something I'm like, I probably should learn their names and interview them. And then we have, I'm going to try it, Hayden Field Games, and I'm going to say collectibles. It cuts me off at COLL, so I'm going to say collectibles. It says, Phil, is it worthwhile to make buy an inexpensive guitar and try to upgrade it into a decent playing guitar. It is worthwhile for a couple reasons. So let me give you the ups and the downs, because it's an answer that's very important that it be accurate. Because if you just say yes, then I'm not really considering all the downfalls. Modding guitars has two really, really positive upsides. One, you essentially are going to have a custom instrument made to your specs and liking at a price that is considerably less than having anyone else do it. So, if you go to a custom builder and say, hey, I want this guitar built with these specifications, it's going to cost a fortune. And you can do that yourself, and the best and the most famous guitar players of all time have done this. They've just gotten parts and put guitars together. And it's way, way easier and way cheaper. And it gives you something unique. And that is always interesting, because this is an emotional endeavor, playing guitar. And half of the game is the emotion. It's how you feel. If you're not playing guitar or playing music because of how you feel, you're doing it all wrong, right? That's the whole point, is to play music and feel something, or even to work on a guitar and feel something. I feel something when I just work on guitars. So that's one major benefit of modding guitars, to make it more affordable. The other thing is, it's an experience. Like, just doing it is something to do. Look, sometimes you need something to do. Some people are retired. They want something to do. Some people, what are you going to, like I said, I do things, sometimes because it's my job. So repairing a guitar would be like a job and I do it. But I do a lot of things because I'm fighting the TV. And now I'm fighting the phone and the tablet, right? The screen time. That's what I'm fighting. It's like I'm in reverse of when I because I'm an empty nester. When I'm at the coffee shop and I see some young mom telling her kid, get off the tablet, get off the phone, I'm like, yeah, I wish somebody would scream at me to do that, because I'm just as bad as kids now. We all are. We're all literally like just this all the time, staring at this all the time, staring at the TV all the time. So to me, it's like, how do I find things to get away from screen time? And so modding a guitar is not only a great way to teach yourself stuff, learn a new thing, but also get yourself away from things that are bad habits, like maybe screen time. So those are two benefits. Now, what are the negatives? Well, if you do what I call marring modifications, where you mar the guitar, change the guitar physically, you're going to lose the money you save. So that's where you can flip that coin. You can literally go, okay, yeah, I made a guitar and I modified it, or I bought a guitar and modified it for $600, and it would have cost me, $3,000-$4,000 to have this built. So I made a lot of money. But now, even though you could have bought another guitar for $600 and sold it for $500, now you're going to sell this guitar for $2,000 or $3,000. So you want to be able to reverse the modifications you did if you ever go to sell it, and keep those components, because that's the better value. So that's one of the downfalls of modifications. The other thing is, you might screw it up. But I always tell people that is part of the journey, is that when you mess it up, you have to fix your mistakes. It's a weird thing. And I know that the audience is varied, and I know that most of the audience is going to be older guitar players. That's just how podcast audiences are in general. And then, of course, guitar on top of that. But there's a lot of teens that watch the podcast, which is strange to me, but thank you for showing up. And if there's one thing I could say to a younger generation, that not to be like the old man, like back in my day, but seriously, if there's one thing I could say is, sometimes getting yourself into a jam, into a problem, and then learning to get out of it is the best absolute thing you could ever do in your entire life, especially if it doesn't put your life, health, at risk, right? And the best lessons I've ever learned is taking something apart and then almost literally at that age, thank God young enough not to have a heart attack, almost having a heart attack with the feeling of, I don't know how to put this, I can't figure out how this went back together. But I got it back together, and then that really, really cemented the knowledge I got. This thing that's like, wow, how did I do that? And, it's just that there's just an old, think about tools that we learned today, building Legos, building puzzles, building things, taking a blueprint and putting it together. But there's something to be said of reverse engineering. Reverse engineering is just the greatest thing. is taking something apart to see how did it be, how did they put it together in the first place? Can I put it back together? And what can I learn from this? And why did they make these decisions? And what a great way to lose an afternoon, right? Just totally, I'm going to do this and see how it works. And I think part of that is lost because, I mean, a lot of those skills, how you got them was, especially back when you were younger, was you were either like me, you were broke, your parents were broke, or they wouldn't pay the money to do stuff, right? Things that you wanted to do. Or you rural, like I didn't grow up rural, but I mean, there wasn't access to anything to get to stuff. So you would just have to fix things. That's just how it worked. You'd fix the things that you had, or modify them. And so I think that's a skill set that you can learn at any age and you should do. And guitar is just so great, especially since, and I say this a lot, guitar is, it's great. It's not like building an amp, okay? Building an amp's great. I've done 2 of those. Those are fun. But like, no one gives you like a, hey, don't forget to turn the volume knob off on your guitar. You might die, right? There's really not a whole lot to hurt yourself with on a guitar other than maybe a solder burn, scratch yourself. I'm trying to think all the wounds I've gotten. Mostly the only thing you really hurt yourself with a guitar is, your knuckles and your fingers just get raw from working on stuff. But that's about it. So definitely do it. So that's the upside of doing it for sure. There's for sure. And then and going back to our earlier discussion about hard opinions and people having hard opinions, that's another hard opinion thing, the modification thing. Some people think it's silly and a waste of time and you shouldn't do it. A lot of people argue that, hey, you shouldn't buy something cheap and fix it up. You should just buy something more expensive. I've learned this lesson twice because I learned the lesson. Oh, now I have a mute switch on my foot, so I can actually cough if I need to. Hold on. But the funny thing is, you learn perspective when you have discussions with people. That's one thing the internet doesn't give you. You can see comments, you can see me, pontificating here on the internet, and that's great. It's information, and maybe. But a one-on-one conversation is the most interesting thing that you can do with somebody, to hear their ideas and actually your ideas, and then kind of massage the 2 ideas instead of argue them. And I remember the first, this one I'll give you because this one's really interesting. I was at the PRS event, I want to say 2018, and I met a kid. I say kid, he was in his 20s, and we were talking, and he mentioned that he had like 8 Harley Benton's, right? And he really liked them. And I, without thinking, just sometimes, crap comes out of your mouth without any thought. I said, wow, that's like a real guitar. I'm like price-wise. Like I'm thinking 8 Harley Benton's times a minimum of $200, that's $1,600, maybe $300, right? You're like, that's $2,400. Like that's you could buy a real guitar, and I said that. And he's like, yeah, but I have a Teles, I have a Strat. And he was walking me through and he's like, I have a 7-string. He has a collection of guitars. And then I have this moment when I'm talking to this kid and I'm like, well, yeah, but there's some benefits to having one really nice guitar, maybe one nice guitar, and then a couple side salad guitars, And then he's like, yeah, but for my budget, I can buy these one at a time and I can fix them if I want and modify them. And he was walk me through the logic. And I'm like, he's making total sense. It's just and here's the worst part of this. And I even told him this in case he's still watching this day. I remember the conversation. So I'll tell you what I remember, what I said. I said, to be honest with you, I just said that because that's what people say to me all the time on YouTube. Oh, you could buy a real guitar. And I just think about it going, yeah, I guess deep down, I really don't care if you have 50 Harley Benton's. I guess if that makes you happy, I don't know why I had an opinion about it at all. It didn't even make sense to me. In fact, I could probably argue that if I had to start a guitar collection again and with $2,000, maybe I would just buy a half a dozen Harley Benton's or Fireflies or whatever guitars and just start it that way. I don't know. So it's funny to me. There's different ways to do these things. And then I once had a kid at the store, and this was a kid. This was like a teenager. And he was buying something at the store, and I mentioned to him that, hey, if you save a little bit more, you can buy the next model up, and that could be more of like a lifetime guitar for you. And he said, yeah, I could. He's like, but this is what I have now, and I can get the guitar now, and I can enjoy it now. And he goes, and, life will work out. And we're thinking like, yeah, I mean, that's just how it works. Life will work out. Yeah, and plus, you never know when those accidental mistakes take you down a road you never expected. And the one thing that I've learned of doing 1,000, I always say this, doing 1,000 YouTube videos, deep dive type videos. The one thing that I could tell you all, if I can impart a thing I learned and share it, is I don't know how to differentiate that $100 IKEA caster hybrid thing from this expensive Made in Japan Gretsch thing to this USA G&L thing to this teeth. There's just no way to do this in my head. Like, I want to tell you that the nicer guitars are better, and the truth is there are just things about them that you can appreciate, but I can't tell you that for any certain reason that they will be better for you or for me. My favorite guitars in my collection are not even close to my expensive ones. Not even close. None of my expensive guitars make it in my top 10. Not one. And it's not because they're not great. It's just because that's just how it goes. All the stuff is, like I said, I am equally happily playing this backstage Peavey as I am this Amplified Nation. Although this Amplified Nation is really nice. In fact, you know what's sad? I'll tell you what I'll do next week for fun. Next week on the Guitar of the Week, since I have two mics, instead of miking up that head, I'll mic up that amp. And with our little switcher now from Sweetwater, I'll hook it all up, and we can hear the Amplified Nation amp to the Peavey amp. So it'll be fun. It'll be absolutely fun. I'll warn you guys right now. I have a really cool amp that I'm doing a video for. This is an amp that I requested to do a video of. It's an idea, and it's a relatively expensive amp. Say on the wrong side of $2,000, right? If there's no such thing as a right side of that. And Ralph came over last Saturday, I played it, and he went, "Wow!" And I was playing a pedal through it, and he's like, "Wow." I go, "Nice, huh?" He goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Hey, you want to hear the Peavey?" And he goes, "Not really." And I plug in the Peavey and I play it, and then he goes, "Okay, the nice one's better." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "But not a lot of better." He says that Peavey's, he's like, that Peavey's sounding a little too good for a comparison of a $2,000 to $100 amp. I said, I know. That's how it all is. It's just the reality of it. Okay. Let's go. Let's do another Feels Trip. Feels, Feels. Trip says, "Happy Friday, Phil. Looking to get my first Les Paul. Is a Gibson headstock cracking mostly a meme, or should I be concerned?" Well, you don't want to drop it. and that means in the case, it means by itself on a stand. I have successfully not broken a Les Paul headstock. Have I ever broken a headstock, period? I have not. Not me personally. I have not broken a headstock. I have cracked one truss rod. I broke a truss rod once. That was before I ever did guitar repair. And I can almost argue, well, I'm not going to argue it was my fault. It was a very unique, it was a bass. In fact, a bass no one's ever seen. It was a prototype Washburn bass that I bought from Washburn. They were clearancing out their, this is a bass they never made. It was like a prototype. And when I got it, the bow in it was so horrible, and I went to turn the truss rod and it just snapped. I was like, what just happened here? And so to this day, I don't know if I did it or if it was maybe defect from this, but I did that. And I've definitely nicked and dinged guitars and smacked a lot of headstocks and chipped headstocks and stuff. I've done all those things. But should you worry about it? What I will tell you is there's an old saying, which is, you want to own your stuff and not it own you. If you are worrying about it in a way that your fear is you'll pay all this money and then it breaks, I would almost suggest you thinking a different way. I will tell you, don't worry about Gibson. You can own a Gibson. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. You can have a Les Paul. But what I will tell you is this. What I've learned about me personally is I thought, and everybody's different. You have to kind of right? Everybody's different. But I thought if I made more money, I would buy more expensive things. And that's just how things will go. And what I've learned is, as I make more money, or as I made more money or make more money, and I buy more expensive things, I tend to not use the expensive things out of that same thought process. Oh, I don't want to damage this. This costs a lot of money. There's something freeing about a guitar that you can just play freely. It's really nice. So if you want to buy one Gibson and like have it and kind of cherish it and baby it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, a lot of us aren't Slash and we don't get, 100 of them gifted to us by Gibson, so we play them. And so if we drop one off the stage, it just happens. A lot of it. I'm not saying that's entirely the case. I'm sure he buys too, just like Bonamassa, but you get the idea. It's the first time I ever bought a guitar and I smacked it. And I know Sean's sometimes watching the show right now and she'll probably remember what guitar it is. I was so distraught. I don't even remember. So here's the deal. I don't even remember what guitar it is. She probably does. I just remember the guitar was expensive and I bought it. And this was about 10 years ago. And it got damaged. I smacked it and it got damaged. And I was so distraught. Like it wrecked me for weeks, just emotionally. And that was the end of that. I'm like, we're not doing that again. So now it's like I got to buy guitars or play guitars that I feel comfortable. And I do own a couple guitars currently right now that I'm not comfortable with because they're too much money. But I did buy them for a collection purpose. Like I said, not to make money or flip them, but just like, I decided like, I think I should do this. I want this. As people know, my Ibanez Universe, I play it, but it's very, pull it out, play it, enjoy it, put it back. But I'm not like slinging it around. So, yeah. But headstock's cracking. I just don't drop them. Don't smack them. Or you can get another brand. Alex wanted to tell us all that is all. Okay, let's do, I got to do this one and then we'll switch over to Amanda and then we'll button up. Phil says, not me, but another Phil says, I want to learn how to set up a PRS SE Custom 24. Can you suggest a budget guitar to practice on? Okay, so you want to learn how to set up the PRS SE Custom 24, but you want a budget? Yeah, I mean, the budget guitar, here's the problem, Phil, is I could almost say like any of the knockoff PRS guitars, all of them, there's tons of them, Harley Benton makes one, tons of companies make a knockoff PRS. I think even Firefly, all these brands, just go out there and find the brand who's knocking out everybody really cheap and you'll find a PRS copy. The only downfall is it will work except for the PRS will not, that bridge will not be exactly like the PRS bridge. It'll be pretty close. The PRS bridge has different screws. They use screws that have notches cut in them so that the bridge plate rests on all 6 screws. And that's a very important part of the setup process to a PRS. So I would almost suggest if you do that, then you got to kind of put the PRS bridge on something. I would just learn on the PRS SE. I wouldn't don't overthink this. There's a video I just recently made and I want to thank the patrons for this because I told you guys earlier, I said, hey, I make some repair videos and we're doing these clinics and we're doing it to kind of give value to patrons and stuff. But I did a video and it's like I forget the title of it. It's a repair video and it's like how to set up a floating bridge in like 5 minutes, right? Or something like that. Something less than that. I think it's 2 minutes. And I did the video and it wasn't that it was going to go to Patreon behind a paywall. It was, sometimes when I make content like that, there's no dividend for me. And I'm just, please, if you could indulge me at the end of the show, a little psychology time for you, for me. This is for me. Look, I don't have to make money on videos. The reality is sometimes a lot of times I don't make anything for making videos, which is why a lot of YouTubers talk about how much they make on videos, because it's like you make content, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. This particular content, it's just not going to pay a dividend to me financially, right? It's a good video. I made it. A lot of people have really appreciated it. It's just how I do things. It's probably can find a variation of it on the internet. I'm sure I'm not the only one doing it this way. But the important part is I make this video and it doesn't matter how many views it gets. It's not going to get a lot. It's a short videos and YouTube's not going to load up with ads. Maybe I make $20. To give you a reference to this, I have a video that I made a great repair video that did really well, and it made $83. And I remember to this day laughing, going, I charged like $130 to do that job. And I taught everybody how to do it for $80. And I thought, wow, that's not a good business model. But hey, you know what? That also was years ago. And the truth is, I've built this channel off of giving information. So I really enjoy it. However, what happened with that video was I did it and I thought, I don't care if I don't make any money, but I really don't want to hear anybody's input about it. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood to be trolled on. And people just seem to get really grumpy about things. And I just want to see the comments. So I gave it to patrons. And this is a funny story. And then I released it. For some of you actually probably saw it because it only got a few hundred views. I released it to the public. I'm going to release this to the public. And the first 3 comments, 2 of them were douchey. I was like, I am not in the mood for this. And I took the video down. I go, I'm not in the mood to teach you guys something and have somebody be jerky about it. And the jerky comments are always my favorite. They're always the same. And it's not anyone's fault. It's like, it doesn't matter what they say. What matters is I release the video. So Phil, what I'm trying to tell you is, you'll see from videos like that, which I'll have out, that you should just get the PRS SE and just learn to work on it. They're very, very, very easy to work on. Floating bridges are super easy. The problem isn't working on them. The problem is teaching how to work on them. So that's what I have to refine. So that's what I figured out. I finally figured out how to explain it. Sometimes when I do a video, you guys see a lot of videos on YouTube. Some of them are the person's skilled, but it's not, the information doesn't hit you very easily, right? You have to kind of watch it. No one wants to watch an hour to figure something out. So whenever I can figure out how to make a video that explains something quickly in minutes, I like to do it. So we'll see. All right. I love it. I'm not old and binge says, why would you teach me how to change strings when I can just buy a new guitar? That is a great, you know what? That should be a shirt. That should be a t-shirt. Yeah, Scott says, unless you use a big hammer to set up your guitar, you'll be fine. I absolutely agree. I don't think there's a whole lot of things you can do. I would say, here, we'll end on this. And if I don't think I missed any super chats, but if I did, they're held for next week. Here's what I will tell you. And the first part probably might sound scary. I would say 50% of all the repairs I've ever done were to fix something someone did to their guitar. Okay? I'm being as honest as I can about that. So I know that sounds almost scary, but it's true. It's absolutely true. I think a lot of repair people would admit the same thing. That being said, 2 things. Nothing I ever charged was super expensive to the point where you were detrimental to where you're like, oh no, I could have bought a new guitar for what you're going to charge me. So fixing your horrible mistake was not super expensive. So in other words, when somebody brought something to me and I'm like, okay, well, this is what it's going to cost to fix it. You can't really make a problem that most people can't. Most people who are semi-competent doing this for a living can't just fix. So don't worry about that. That's one. The second thing is, what did I normally see the mistakes on? So when I see mistakes on guitars, the number one most common mistake is electronics. Somebody has wired something incorrectly. They have forgot a thing. They wired a thing backwards. They wired a thing wrong. It's just because it's kind of like it's there's so many schematics. It's usually everybody's trying their first soldering job somewhere. That's the not a big deal. And nothing like, oh no, because you did this, now this switch will never work again and you need to buy new parts. I mean, unless you burn out the pots or burn up stuff, very unlikely that anything can't be fixed very easily. So say that. The second thing, and this is probably the most important thing that's going to help Phil, is the thing that I noticed the most that people work on the guitars they snap off screw heads off guitars, like especially bridges. You crack bridge posts, cracking bridge posts, stripping screws, cracking the heads to Tone Pros bridges, scratching, destroying them, chipping them, just using inappropriate tools, the wrong tools, or putting the wrong amount of force, or not knowing something locks or does something and not having a full understanding of what is in play here, right? Those are the most things I've seen that you do. And I will give this as the best piece of advice. Almost every time that's ever happened, I always ask, because look, I've dumbassed myself so many times that I just don't judge people for it. And I think that always comes across if you're talking to me, like, hey, I'll go, whoa, yeah, well, look what you did. And they're like, I know. And I go, I've done worse. And I go, what did you do? And they're usually pretty forthcoming about it. So here's what I've noticed about those. They all say, I knew it wasn't going to turn, but I thought I'll do it anyways. In other words, follow your gut instinct when you're working on stuff, and more times than not, and this is where I would rather have this conversation, and I think any tech would with any of you, is when you came into the shop and you said, I need to adjust this. And I went, "Er," and they went, oh, see, I was turning it, but it just didn't feel right. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Better that we can just finish it off versus something else happen. So that's the main thing. Just, and same with the PRS. The PRS, number one thing with the PRS SEs on setting up the bridges, the number one thing that happens is you snap off the head to one of the screws. And that's a pain in the ass because you have to get out your vice grips and then twist out the screws in there. That's the worst thing. Actually, no, that's the second worst thing. The worst thing is you snap off the screw to the bridge on an SE, especially because the screws are softer, and it snaps off flush with the body, and then we have to tap it out. That's a pain in the ass. That's the worst thing that can happen. So, just be careful doing that. That's it. Okay. All right. On that note, I want to thank everybody for hanging out. I hope you guys had a good time. I hope you guys enter to win the Fender guitar. Like I said, it's can't be the worst thing that happen is win a $2,000 guitar. What's great about this is it was nice to have this as a way to do a prize. A lot of times we're always trying to give away something really cool, and it's really hard to find somebody who does it. And I'm really happy that Shauna and Guitar Center worked this out to do something really cool. And on that note, I hope you guys have a great weekend and play guitar. And until next week, thank you for your time and know your gear.
The Know Your Gear podcast. The Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible.